I never thought I'd cry over money. But when the lawyer called and said, "Ms. Robinson, your father left you $29 million," my knees gave out. I collapsed into my office chair as the phone shook in my hand. "There must be a mistake," I whispered. "No mistake, Ms. Robinson. Your father's will is very clear." My father, the man who barely acknowledged me for 34 years, the successful tech entrepreneur who missed my graduation, my wedding, and every birthday in between. That man had just given me freedom from his grave. I hung up and stared at the rain beating against my office window. $29 million. The number felt unreal, like someone else's lottery win. My first thought wasn't about what I'd buy or where I'd travel. It was about Darren, my husband of 7 years. The man who looked at my marketing career and called it just making ads. The man who reminded me at every dinner party that his finance job paid our bills. Maybe now he'll finally see me, I whispered to myself, grabbing my purse. I tried calling Darren 5 times on my way to the car. No answer. So I texted, "Babe, something incredible just happened. Please come home. I need to tell you face to face." The rain pounded harder as I pulled out of the parking garage. Atlanta traffic crawled through the downpour, but I barely noticed. All I could think about was Darren's face when I told him. Would he be shocked? Proud? Would he finally stop looking at me like I was just some burden he carried? Lightning cracked across the sky as I turned onto the highway. The windshield wipers couldn't keep up with the deluge, but I pushed forward, checking my phone at every red light. No response. My mind raced faster than my car. I could pay off our mortgage. We could start the family we'd been putting off until things settled down. I could finally launch my own marketing agency instead of consulting for others. Darren could even quit his job if he wanted. I didn't see the curve coming. My tires hit a puddle, and suddenly the steering wheel wasn't responding. Everything slowed down. The guardrail rushed toward me, metal screaming against metal. My body lurched forward, then snapped back. Then, darkness. Before I even tell you what happened next, let me ask you this. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted most? If you have, you'll feel this story deep in your soul, and if you know that kind of pain, hit subscribe. Not because it helps me, but because stories like this remind us that sometimes silence and strength are the best revenge. Beep, beep, beep. The sound pulled me from darkness. My eyelids felt glued shut. When I finally forced them open, harsh white lights stabbed my vision. Hospital. I was in a hospital. My body screamed in pain when I tried to move. My left arm lay useless in a cast. Bandages wrapped my torso, and every breath felt like swallowing fire. "You're awake." A nurse appeared beside me, checking monitors. "Do you remember what happened?" "Car accident," I croaked. My throat felt like sandpaper. "That's right. You've been unconscious for 2 days." She adjusted something on my IV. "You're lucky to be alive. That guardrail nearly went through your driver's side door." 2 days. I'd been here for 2 days. "My husband," I whispered. "Is he here?" The nurse's smile faltered. "No visitors have been recorded. Would you like me to call someone for you?" No visitors? That couldn't be right. Darren would have been frantic, would have been camped out in the waiting room. He tracked my phone constantly. He would have known something was wrong when I didn't come home. My phone. I need my phone. She handed me my damaged phone from a plastic bag of belongings. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. 3 missed calls from work, none from Darren. I called him with trembling fingers, straight to voicemail. "Darren, it's me. I was in a car accident. I'm at Mercy Hospital. Please come." My voice broke on the last word. Hours passed. Doctors came and went. They explained my injuries: 3 broken ribs, fractured left arm, concussion, lacerations across my face and chest. I nodded mechanically, but all I could think was, "Where is Darren?" I texted him, "I was in an accident, please come." No response. Another day passed. I watched the door constantly, waiting for his familiar silhouette. Nurses gave me pitying looks when they checked my vitals. "Still no visitors?" they'd ask gently. I stopped answering. By the 3rd day, the truth settled like ice in my stomach. He wasn't coming. My husband, the man who vowed to stand by me in sickness and health, had abandoned me when I needed him most. What I didn't know then was why, and the truth would be worse than I could imagine. On the 3rd day, my phone rang. Darren's name lit up the screen. My heart jumped as I fumbled to answer, wincing at the pain in my ribs. "Darren," my voice cracked with relief. The silence stretched for 3 seconds before he sighed. Not a sigh of relief, a sigh of irritation. "Nia, I'm really busy," he said. His tone was cold, like he was talking to a telemarketer, not his injured wife. "I was in a car crash," I said, tears welling up. "I've been in the hospital for 3 days." "Yeah, I got your messages." Another pause. "Look, you'll be fine. You always are." My mouth went dry. "The doctors say I have 3 broken ribs and a concussion." "And what am I supposed to do about that?" he cut in. "I have deadlines. The Peterson account is due tomorrow." The monitor beside me beeped faster as my heart rate climbed. "I thought you'd at least visit. You know how expensive hospitals are?" His voice rose. "I can't keep playing nurse to you. You just cost us a fortune with this accident." Tears rolled down my cheeks now. Where was the man who'd held my hand through food poisoning last year, who'd promised to protect me always? "I don't understand," I whispered. "Look," he interrupted, "I don't have time or money to waste on someone who keeps creating problems. Get some rest. I'll check in later." Then he hung up. I stared at my phone, waiting for him to call back, to apologize, to say he didn't mean it. The minutes ticked by. Nothing. A nurse walked in to check my vitals and frowned at the monitor. "Blood pressure's up. Everything okay?" I wiped my tears quickly. "Fine, just pain." She patted my shoulder sympathetically before leaving. I was alone again. I scrolled through our text messages from just days ago. "Love you. Babe. Miss you today. Can't wait to see you tonight." Had it all been a lie? I texted him, "Please come see me. I need you." No response. That night, a thought crept into my mind as I stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet beeps of machines. What if this wasn't about the accident? What if something else was happening? Something I'd been too blind to see. The nurse brought dinner. I couldn't eat. All I could think about was Darren's voice, how it sounded like he was talking to a stranger, not his wife of 7 years. Something had changed. And when I found out what, it would break more than just my bones. 2 weeks later, the hospital discharged me. My body was held together with a cast, bandages, and pain medication. The taxi driver helped me with my small bag of belongings, looking concerned when he saw me wince with each step. "You sure someone's home to help you?" he asked as we pulled up to my apartment building. "My husband should be there," I lied, tipping him extra for his kindness. I limped to our door, fumbling for my keys. The key slid in but wouldn't turn. I tried again, thinking my medication was making me clumsy. Nothing. Had Darren changed the locks? I knocked, then pounded when no answer came. That's when I saw it, a white envelope taped to the door with my name scrawled across it. My fingers trembled as I tore it open. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I've moved out. You can stay with your mom or something. The apartment is in my name now. No signature, no explanation, just 12 words that erased 7 years of marriage. I slid down against the door, clutching the note. The pain in my chest wasn't from my broken ribs anymore. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your things are in storage unit 47 at City Store, paid for 1 month. I called Darren's office with shaking hands. I'm sorry, Mr. Robinson has taken personal leave, his assistant said. He won't be back for several weeks. Personal leave? Where had he gone? Why now? Sitting in the hallway of what was no longer my home, I opened Instagram. The answer hit me like another car crash. Darren's latest post. A sunset dinner, wine glasses clinking. A beautiful woman across from him, her smile dazzling. Caption, New beginnings with Elise. Posted 3 days after my accident. I zoomed in on her face, my vision blurring with tears. She was younger, maybe mid-20s. Her manicured hand rested on his, a diamond bracelet catching the light. My husband hadn't abandoned me for work. He'd abandoned me for someone else. I limped back to the street, hailed another taxi, and cried silently in the back seat. I was injured, homeless, and betrayed, all at once, and I still had no idea about the $29 million waiting for me. A cheap motel became my home that night. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at Darren's Instagram. Photo after photo of him with Elise, at restaurants, at parties, on a weekend trip to Savannah, all posted while I lay broken in a hospital bed. When my phone rang the next morning, I almost didn't answer, but some small part of me still hoped he'd apologize. Nia, his voice was oddly cheerful. Got your stuff? Why are you doing this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I didn't plan to do it like this, he said. But when your accident happened, it felt like, I don't know, like a sign. A clean break. A clean break? I repeated. 7 years of marriage, and you call this clean? He laughed, a cold, mocking laugh I once thought was charming. Look, I don't want you back, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. I just want to understand what I did wrong. The silence stretched between us before he answered. You didn't do anything wrong, Nia. You were just boring. You lived small. And I don't have time for losers. My hand tightened around the phone. Elise is everything you're not, he continued. Beautiful, ambitious, and actually worth my time. The tears I expected didn't come. Instead, something cold and hard settled in my chest. I see, I said quietly. Don't worry about the apartment, I already sold it. Your clothes are all you're getting. After he hung up, I sat motionless for a long time. Then I called my father's lawyer. Mr. Winters, it's Nia Robinson. I'd like to discuss my inheritance. 2 hours later, I sat across from him in his office. You want to keep the inheritance private? He asked, eyebrows raised. Completely private, I confirmed. My husband and I are separating. Understanding dawned in his eyes. I'll set up discreet accounts, and I can recommend excellent divorce attorneys. That day, I made a promise to myself. Darren would regret ever underestimating me. Not through revenge, but by becoming someone he could never touch again. You know what hurts the most? Not what they did, but that I still tried to make them proud after everything. If you've ever given people too many chances, you already understand this pain. Don't just scroll, subscribe. Join people who've been through it too, because you deserve stories that make you feel seen. 1 year can change everything. The woman who stood before the mirror hardly resembled the broken creature who had limped into that motel room. My hair, once limp and dull, now fell in healthy waves past my shoulders. My eyes, once perpetually red-rimmed from crying, now held a quiet confidence. The $29 million hadn't just bought me financial freedom, it had bought me time. Time to heal, time to reinvent myself, time to build something meaningful. My new penthouse apartment overlooked Piedmont Park, floor-to-ceiling windows filling the space with light, but I didn't spend much time there. My days were consumed by my new purpose. After the divorce was finalized, Darren never discovered the inheritance. I used $5 million to create the Phoenix Foundation, a nonprofit helping women rebuild after relationship trauma. We provided housing, legal aid, and career counseling. My marketing background finally served a purpose bigger than selling products. The remaining millions I split between secure investments and funding small women-owned businesses. My portfolio grew steadily under the guidance of financial advisors who, unlike Darren, actually respected my intelligence. Ms. Robinson? My assistant Mia appeared in the doorway of my office. The contractors are here about the new shelter location. I nodded and gathered my files. The foundation was expanding to its third location in Georgia. As I walked through our headquarters, past walls decorated with success stories and thank you notes from women we'd helped, a strange feeling washed over me. On paper, my life was perfect. I had wealth, purpose, respect. Yet, underneath it all, a wound remained unhealed. I still flinched when I saw couples holding hands in the park. Still woke up sometimes reaching for someone who wasn't there. Still wondered if Darren ever thought about me, or if I had been so easy to forget. I had survived his betrayal. I had transformed my pain into purpose, but I hadn't yet faced him, hadn't looked him in the eye as the woman I'd become. Little did I know, that moment was coming sooner than I expected, and it would bring revelations that would shake the foundation of everything I thought I knew about my life. To new beginnings, said Marcus, my foundation's newest board member, raising his glass. We clinked crystal in the soft lighting of Atlanta's most exclusive restaurant. Our dinner meeting had gone perfectly. The foundation would receive a $500,000 donation to expand our housing program. After a year of rebuilding my life, moments like this felt like victory. Then I heard it, a laugh. Deep, confident, familiar. My spine stiffened. I knew that laugh. It had once been the soundtrack to my happiness. Something wrong? Marcus asked, noticing my sudden change. No, The words died in my throat as I heard Darren's voice directly behind me. And then I told them they'd need to double their offer if they wanted my expertise, he was saying loudly, clearly showing off. I could walk out, pretend I hadn't heard him, preserve my pride and my peace. But something in me refused to hide, not anymore. I turned slowly in my seat, and there he was, Darren, looking exactly as I remembered. Designer suit, perfectly styled hair, that smile that once made my heart race. Across from him sat a stunning woman with long, dark hair and delicate features, Elise. Our eyes met for a split second before Darren noticed my stare and turned. His smile vanished instantly, replaced by shock. "Nia?" he said, voice strangled. The woman, Elise, looked between us, confused at first. Then she gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Her reaction wasn't jealousy or anger. It was pure terror. "Darren," I said calmly, surprising myself with my steady voice. "It's been a while." He recovered quickly, forcing a tight smile. "It has. You look different." "I am different," I replied. Elise hadn't spoken. Her face had drained of color, and she stared at me like she'd seen a ghost. "This is," Darren began, gesturing to her. "Elise," I finished for him. "I know. You've posted enough pictures together. She flinched at my words, her eyes filling with tears. This wasn't the reaction I expected from the woman who had replaced me. Darren leaned toward her, whispering something urgent. She nodded mechanically. We should go, Darren said, throwing cash on their table. Good to see you, Nia. Glad you're doing well. As they rushed past our table, Elise glanced back at me. Her look wasn't smug or victorious. It was haunted. Marcus whistled low. Ex-husband? Yes, I said, watching them disappear. But something isn't right. Did you see her face? I had no idea then that Elise's reaction wasn't about meeting her boyfriend's ex-wife. It was about seeing someone who was supposed to be dead. 2 days later, at 11:38 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? I answered cautiously. Silence, then a shaky breath. Nia? It's Elise. I sat up straight in bed, suddenly wide awake. How did you get my number? I found your business card in Darren's desk, she whispered. I had to talk to you. Her voice was thin with fear, nothing like the confident woman I'd imagined. Why? I asked coldly. Because he's not who you think he is. He's not who I thought he was either. I laughed bitterly. Trust me, I know exactly who Darren is. No, she insisted. You don't understand. He's been lying to everyone, controlling everything, and I found out something horrible. The raw emotion in her voice made me pause. What are you talking about? Her next words froze my blood. He told me you died in that car crash. My hand tightened around the phone. What? When we started dating, he said his wife had recently died in a car accident. He showed me news articles about the crash. Your crash. Her voice broke. He said he was a grieving widower. That's how we met, at a grief support group. I'd lost my fiancé the year before. My mind reeled. Darren had pretended I was dead? He used your story to get sympathy from everyone, she continued. He collected thousands in donations for a fake memorial fund. He told everyone how devastated he was. I couldn't speak, couldn't think. When I saw you at the restaurant, she said, I thought I was seeing a ghost. I nearly passed out. Why are you telling me this? I finally managed. A long pause followed. Because I think I know why he looked so scared when he saw you. There's something else I found, something about my mother. My pulse quickened. What about her? My mother's maiden name is Robinson, she said quietly. The same as mine. What are you saying? I whispered. My mom had a baby before she met my dad. A baby girl she gave up for adoption. Her voice trembled. When I saw your photo, I recognized the birthmark on your shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon, the one my mom always described. My free hand moved to my shoulder, to the birthmark I'd had since birth. Oh my God, she sobbed. Nia, you're my sister. The world tilted beneath me. Sister? This couldn't be real. But deep down I knew. The universe had played the cruelest joke. Darren had unknowingly married the sister of the woman he'd abandoned. 3 days after Elise's call, we met at a quiet coffee shop outside the city. I arrived early, heart pounding as I scanned each face that walked through the door. Then she appeared, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. We sat across from each other, two strangers connected by blood and betrayal. Now that I looked, really looked, I could see similarities I'd missed before. The same high cheekbones, the same slight curl to our hair, the same way we both tucked our hair behind our ears when nervous. I brought these, she said, sliding a folder across the table. Inside were adoption records, her mother's photos, and a DNA test kit. You want to be sure, I said. It wasn't a question. She nodded. I need to know. I opened the first document, her mother's birth certificate, Patricia Ann Robinson, born in Savannah, 1957. I'd never known my birth mother's name. My adoption records just say Robinson, I whispered. No first name. She pushed a photo toward me. A young woman with my eyes stared back. Mom never stopped thinking about you, Elise said. Every year on your birthday, she'd light a candle and cry. Dad never understood. My throat tightened. For years, I'd imagined my birth mother as cold, unfeeling. I never considered she might have mourned me. Why did she give me up? I asked. She was 17. Her parents forced her. Elise's eyes filled with tears. She tried to find you when she turned 18, but the records were sealed. We completed the DNA tests right there, swabbing our cheeks, but we already knew. 2 weeks later, the results confirmed it. Half-sisters, sharing 25% identical DNA. I invited Elise to my apartment to discuss the results. We sat on my balcony watching the sun set over Atlanta. The irony, I said finally. Darren left me for my own sister. He had no idea, Elise whispered. Neither did I. And he told everyone I was dead. I shook my head in disbelief. While dating your sister, Elise finished. It's like some twisted Greek tragedy. We fell silent, processing the cruel joke fate had played on us. What happens now? She asked. I looked at her. This sister I never knew I had, and felt something shift inside me. The anger I'd carried wasn't just for me anymore. It was for her too. Now we make sure he never hurts another woman again. When I finally stood my ground, they called me heartless. But tell me, where were they when I was breaking? If you've ever had to choose peace over people, this channel is your space. Subscribe, not for me, but for every quiet soul who took their power back. The next day, Elise arrived at my apartment with a cardboard box. Everything I found in Darren's home office, she explained, dumping the contents onto my dining table. Bank statements, credit card applications, life insurance policies, all with my name. He took out a $2 million policy on you 6 months before your accident, Elise said, pointing to a document. He tried to claim it after the crash, but since you weren't actually dead... My hands shook as I picked up a folder labeled Nia Accounts. Inside were printouts of my bank statements, investment accounts, even my retirement fund. He had tracked every penny I owned. How did he get these? I whispered. He installed tracking software on your computer years ago, Elise explained. He showed me how to do it too, said it was to protect our finances. A cold realization washed over me. The inheritance, he must have known. Elise nodded. I found this. She handed me an email Darren had printed. It was from my father's company to me, dated 2 weeks before the accident, mentioning a significant matter regarding your father's estate. He knew I was coming into money, I said, feeling sick. He was tracking my emails. There's more, Elise said quietly. She pulled out her phone, showing me photos of her own financial documents, all annotated in Darren's handwriting. He's been asking about my family money for months, always casual but persistent. I studied the photos. He's planning his next move with you. Was, she corrected. I moved out yesterday while he was at work. Took everything important. We spread the evidence across my table. Bank statements showing Darren had tried accessing my accounts while I was unconscious. The fake memorial fund he'd created after my death, collecting over $50,000. Insurance claims he'd filed. Even Google searches, how to claim deceased spouse's inheritance. All this time, I said, I thought he left me because I wasn't enough. But it was never about love. It was about money, Elise finished. My money, your money, anyone's money. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Darren hadn't just broken my heart. He'd planned to empty my accounts while I lay fighting for my life. He needs to pay for this, I said, a new determination hardening inside me. Elise reached for my hand. Yes, she agreed. And I know exactly how to make that happen. He's calling again, Elise said, holding up her phone. Darren's name flashed on the screen for the 20th time that day. Are you ready? I asked. She took a deep breath and nodded, putting the phone on speaker. Where the hell are you? Darren's voice filled my living room. I came home and your stuff was gone. I know everything, Darren, Elise replied, her voice surprisingly steady. About Nia, about the money, all of it. Silence, then his voice softened, that manipulative charm I knew too well. Baby, I don't know what you think you found, but you're confused. Come home so we can talk about this. I saw Nia, she said. Your dead wife? Except she's not dead, is she? She told you lies, he said quickly. She's always been jealous of us. I bit my tongue, watching Elise handle him perfectly. You took out life insurance on her right before her accident. You tried to claim her inheritance. You told everyone she died. That's not what happened, he stammered. Listen, wherever you are, just come home. You're being hysterical. Elise's eyes met mine. You know what's funny, Darren? You married sisters and never even knew it. The silence on the other end was deafening. What are you talking about? He finally asked. Nia is my half-sister, my biological sister. We did the DNA test. You're lying, he whispered. Goodbye, Darren, Elise said firmly. Don't call again. My lawyer will contact you. She hung up, hands shaking, but eyes clear. He'll come looking for you, I warned. Let him, she replied. I copied everything from his computer before I left. Bank records, fake accounts, everything. I smiled at my newfound sister. So what's our next step? I've been thinking about that, she said. Your foundation helps women rebuild after trauma, right? Well, what if Darren's been doing this to other women? My mind raced with possibilities. We find them, and we build a case so strong he'll never hurt anyone again. For the first time since my accident, I felt something more powerful than anger or pain. I felt hope, not just for justice, but for family. The sister I never knew I needed had become my strongest ally. We found 3 more victims, said Maya, our private investigator, laying photographs across my office table. All wealthy women, all dated Darren between relationships. A month had passed since Elise confronted Darren. We'd hired Maya, a former FBI agent who specialized in financial crimes, to investigate Darren's past. Jennifer Caldwell, tech executive, dated Darren for 8 months in 2017, lost $150,000 in a joint investment that never existed. She pointed to the next photo. Rebecca Torres, real estate developer, 3-month relationship in 2019. He convinced her to add him to her accounts as an emergency contact. Drained $80,000 before she caught him. The last photo showed an older woman. Margaret Wilson, widow with family money, 4-month engagement in 2021. He disappeared the day after she revised her will to include him. My stomach turned. He's been doing this for years. Successfully, Maya confirmed. None pressed charges, too embarrassed or too scared. Elise studied the women's faces. Have you contacted them? All 3 agreed to testify, Maya nodded. But we need to catch him in the act with current evidence. Our attorney, Vanessa, who had been silently taking notes, finally spoke. I have an idea. What if Darren learned about a new opportunity? something too tempting to resist. Like what? I asked. Like your foundation receiving a $10 million grant, she suggested. Anonymous donor, minimal oversight. I understood immediately. Bait. Exactly, Vanessa smiled. We leak the information through mutual friends. Mention how you'll personally oversee the funds. He'll come crawling back, Elise said, trying to reconcile, looking for a way in. And when he does, Vanessa continued, we document everything, every conversation, every message, every attempt to access information. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Use Darren's greed against him. Within days, we set the trap. I told Marcus, who I knew still maintained casual contact with Darren, about our exciting new grant. Elise mentioned to mutual friends how I was struggling to manage such a large sum alone. The bait was set. We didn't have to wait long. 3 days later, my phone lit up with a text. Nia, it's Darren. I've been thinking about you. Can we meet? I'd like to apologize for everything. I've changed. I smiled at the phone. The fish had taken the bait. Tell him yes, Elise said, a gleam in her eye. It's time to finish this. I chose my office for our meeting. My territory, my rules. I wore a sleek black dress, nothing like the soft, passive woman he'd known. When my assistant announced Darren's arrival, I straightened my shoulders and took a deep breath. Nia, he said, stepping into my office. His smile was exactly as I remembered, confident, practiced, hollow. You look amazing. Thank you, I replied coolly. Have a seat. He glanced around my office, taking in the awards on the wall, the view of the Atlanta skyline, the clear signs of success. Impressive place, he said, sitting across from me. You've done well for yourself. I have, I agreed simply. His smile widened. I've been thinking about us, about what happened. I was going through a lot when you had your accident. I didn't handle it well. I nodded, letting him continue his performance. I heard about your foundation's new grant, he said, trying to sound casual. $10 million, that's incredible. You must be overwhelmed managing that kind of money. There it was, the real reason for his sudden desire to reconnect. It is overwhelming, I said, watching his eyes light up with greed. You know, I could help, he offered, leaning forward. My financial background would be perfect for this kind of project. That's a generous offer, I said, but I'm not alone in managing the foundation. His eyebrows lifted. Oh, you have a partner? Actually, I do. I pressed the intercom. Can you send her in? The door opened and Elise walked in. Darren's face drained of color. What is this? He demanded, standing abruptly. Sit down, Darren, Elise said firmly. You two are working together? He looked between us, eyes wild. What kind of sick game is this? No game, I said calmly. Just justice. I opened my laptop, turning the screen toward him. On it were files labeled with the names of every woman he'd scammed, bank records showing his fraud, insurance claims filed after my death. You've been busy, I said. Jennifer, Rebecca, Margaret, they all say hello, by the way. They're excited to testify. His charm vanished, replaced by desperation. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can, Elise said, placing a recorder on the desk. Including your admission just now about wanting access to foundation money. The door opened again. 2 police officers entered with Maya, who flashed her investigator badge. Darren Robinson, one officer said. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of fraud, attempted insurance fraud, and theft. As they handcuffed him, Darren looked at me with pure hatred. You'll regret this. I smiled. I already regretted wasting 7 years with you. This? This I'll celebrate. Sometimes revenge isn't about payback, it's about peace. And if this story touched you, subscribe right now. Because somewhere out there, another person is watching in silence, needing a reminder that they're not alone, and your one click might help them find it. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom, watching Darren in his orange jumpsuit. The confident charm that once seemed so attractive now looked pathetic as he tried to smile at the judge. The state calls Jennifer Caldwell to the stand, the prosecutor announced. One by one, women told their stories. Jennifer described how Darren had convinced her to invest in a fake tech startup. Rebecca detailed how he drained her accounts while claiming to be organizing her finances. Margaret, voice shaking with anger, explained how he'd isolated her from family while trying to change her will. Then it was my turn. Ms. Robinson, the prosecutor said, please tell the court about your relationship with the defendant. I described our marriage, the accident, and his abandonment. The life insurance policy he'd taken out months before my crash. His attempts to claim I was dead. And then, I said, looking directly at Darren, he began dating my sister without knowing we were related. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Darren's lawyer winced. When Elise testified about finding Darren's financial records and discovering his scheme, Darren finally lost his cool. She's lying, he shouted, jumping to his feet. They're all lying. This is a conspiracy. Control your client, the judge warned his lawyer. Darren's outburst only strengthened our case. His carefully constructed image crumbled as he revealed his true self in front of the court. The verdict came after just 3 hours of deliberation. Guilty on all counts: fraud, attempted insurance fraud, theft, and identity theft. The defendant has shown no remorse, the judge said during sentencing. He has systematically targeted vulnerable women for financial gain, showing a pattern of predatory behavior that this court finds particularly disturbing. Darren's sentence: 15 years. No possibility of parole for 10. As the bailiff led him away, Darren looked back at me and Elise, sitting side by side. The hatred in his eyes couldn't touch us anymore. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us with questions. I simply said, "Today isn't about revenge. It's about protecting other women from experiencing what we did." Elise squeezed my hand as cameras flashed around us. We walked down the courthouse steps, not as victims, but as survivors. "It's really over," she whispered. But for us, something was just beginning. A bond formed in the fire of betrayal, but destined to become something much more powerful than the pain that created it. 1 year after Darren's sentencing, Elise and I stood nervously outside a small blue house in Savannah. Fall leaves crunched beneath our feet as we approached the door. "Ready?" I asked, squeezing her hand. She nodded, tears already forming in her eyes. The door opened, revealing an older woman with Elise's smile and my eyes. Patricia Robinson, our mother, covered her mouth as she took us in. "My girls," she whispered. "My babies." That day changed everything. As we sat in her living room, surrounded by family photos, she told us how her parents had forced her to give me up at 17, how she'd searched for years before giving up hope, how she'd kept a box of baby clothes for the daughter she lost. "I never stopped loving you," she told me, her hand trembling as she touched my face. "Not for one day." The Phoenix Foundation had grown beyond anything I imagined. With Elise as my partner, we'd expanded to 5 states, helping thousands of women rebuild after betrayal. Our story, of sisters united by the very man who tried to destroy them, had captured national attention, bringing donations and volunteers from across the country. The money that Darren had coveted became the tool for our healing and the healing of others. 6 months after meeting our mother, I found myself cleaning out the last box of pre-accident memories. At the bottom was my wedding photo, Darren and me, smiling into the camera, his arm around my waist. I expected pain, anger, maybe even lingering heartbreak. Instead, I felt nothing but peace. I placed the photo in my fireplace and watched the flames curl around our smiling faces. Not out of bitterness, but as a final release. My phone buzzed with a text from Elise. "Mom's flight landed. Heading to your place now." I smiled, putting away the empty box. In losing everything, I'd found something far more precious: my real family. That night, as the three of us shared dinner on my balcony, Mom raised her glass. "To my daughters," she said, "who found each other against impossible odds." Elise added, "To survival." I completed the toast. "To betrayal, because without it, we might never have found our way home." Sometimes the worst moments of your life become doorways to your greatest blessings. My husband's betrayal didn't break me. It revealed my true strength and led me to the family I never knew I had. Have you ever found unexpected blessings in your darkest moments? This channel is for survivors like you. Hit subscribe now and join our community of Phoenix souls, people who weren't destroyed by betrayal, but transformed by it. Your story of rising from the ashes might be the one that helps someone else find their wings.